Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to try and dismantle a myth that I guarantee is living rent-free in the back of your brain right now.
It's a big one.
It's huge. It's a myth about who you are, where you came from, and specifically how your ancestors managed to survive the absolute brutality of the prehistoric world.
It is a very, very pervasive myth. It's the one where we all picture our ancestors, on the African savanna, standing tall against the horizon.
Right. The Hollywood caveman. You know the exact image I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
This guy with a brow ridge you could land a small plane on. He's holding a spear. He's ripped like he just walked out of a CrossFit box.
And he's covered in furs. Always furs.
Always. And the narrative we attach to that image is, well, it's always the same.
Yeah.
We conquered the planet because we were the meanest, the toughest, the most violent apes on the block.
Right. We killed the mammoth.
We killed the rival tribe. We dragged the women back to the cave.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest, right?
That is the story we tell ourselves. And, it appeals to a certain kind of rugged individualism. It makes us feel like conquerors.
It does.
But the source material we're looking at today, and it pulls from evolutionary psychology, from fossil records, from biological anthropology, it suggests that this whole story is, well, it's almost completely wrong.
Wrong in what way?
Yeah.
I mean, are you saying we weren't violent? Because looking at, all of human history, we seem pretty good at violence.
We're certainly capable of it. No one's denying that. But the argument here is that violence isn't what set us apart. It isn't the killer app of the human species. If we had relied on brute strength and aggression to survive, we would have gone extinct a long, long time ago. We were simply too weak.
That is a fair point. If you put that Hollywood caveman in a UFC cage match with a lion.
The lion wins. Every single time. Not even close.
Not even a contest.
A chimpanzee is significantly stronger than a human, pound for pound. We don't have claws. Our teeth are, they're pathetic compared to a predator's, and we're not particularly fast.
So we're kind of underwhelming, physically.
Very. So the premise we're exploring today starts with this really provocative idea. The very first ape to speak, the one who started the whole revolution that became humanity, wasn't shouting a war cry.
What were they doing then?
They were likely brokering a deal.
A deal.
A negotiation.
Yeah.
The shift that saved us wasn't a shift from weakness to, brute strength. It was a shift from aggression to negotiation.
So instead of, I'm going to kill you and take your food, it was more like, hey, let's make a trade.
Exactly. And that shift, that one little change, it changes everything about how we understand our own biology. It implies that the traits that kept us alive and, more importantly, the traits that allowed us to reproduce weren't physical weapons.
They were social tools.
Exactly. Social tools.
Okay, so let's set the scene a little bit more here. We're talking about our ancestors hunting and gathering apes. We're out there in the wild, competing with lions, tigers, hyenas, actual predators with claws and fangs designed to tear flesh.
And we don't really have any of that.
Not at all.
Physically, as you said, we're somewhat underwhelming. So our survival had to rely on something else. It relied on debts.
Debts, like financial debts.
Social debts. Debts paid and repaid over time. The source material really emphasizes that for these early humans, the best thing anyone could do to ensure their babies survived to adulthood wasn't to sharpen a stick, though, that definitely helped.
But it wasn't the main thing.
It wasn't the main thing. The main thing was to secure connections in the community.
So making friends was a survival strategy.
It was the primary survival strategy. And this leads us to the absolute core concept of today's deep dive. The source frames it in this really interesting way. Responsible citizenship became a visible sign of reproductive fitness.
Okay, let's unpack that. Responsible citizenship. That sounds incredibly boring.
It does, doesn't it?
It sounds like paying your taxes on time or you're not double parking.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that in the context of evolution, this was sexy.
In the context of the savannah, yes. Extremely sexy.
And the key phrase there is reproductive fitness. This is the biologist's technical term for, well, let's just call it what the source calls it.
The source calls it the quality that makes your sexy ass, all that.
Yes, exactly. It means that being a good citizen, being reliable, being kind, being connected, that became the trait that made you sexy. That became the thing that potential mates would choose for.
It became the new peacock's tail.
Which brings us to the mission of this deep dive. We're looking at this amazing material on evolutionary psychology, specifically a chapter titled How Kindness Became Sexy. And our goal here is to really understand this transition, How did kindness and intelligence replace brute strength as the primary things we look for in a partner?
And we want to understand the why. Why are humans nice? Is it just, manners? Is it just social conditioning we picked up? The source argues it's so much deeper than that.
It's written into our biology.
It is. Our most humane qualities, our generosity, our creativity, our empathy, these aren't just cultural add-ons. They're the result of millions of years of sexual selection.
We bred ourselves to be good.
That's the argument. We are literally the descendants of the nice ones.
I love that. It just completely flips the script on that whole nice guys finish last idea.
It does.
According to evolution, the nice guys are the only ones who finished it all.
In the long run, yes. That's exactly it.
So let's dive into the first segment, the pivot. We need to talk about how we went from fangs to feelings.
This is the evolutionary pivot, the big one.
Now, the traditional view of evolution, the whole red and toucan claw view, it says that fitness means being strong. It means being the alpha. It means dominating your rivals physically.
That's the colloquial understanding of survival of the fittest. But in biology, fitness has a very specific mathematical definition. It simply refers to reproductive success.
That's it.
That's it. It doesn't matter how strong you are if you don't pass your genes into the next generation. I mean, you can be the strongest ape on the mountain, but if you never mate, your fitness is zero. End of story.
So you have to get picked.
You have to get picked. And the traits that get you picked are what we call primary fitness indicators.
Which is, as we said, biology's for mojo.
Essentially, yes. Every single species has these indicators. They are the signals that tell a prospective mate, hey, I have good genes, I'm healthy, I'm a good bet.
And the source gives some great examples of this in other species, right?
It does. If you look at peacocks, it's the tail feathers, the colors, the size, the iridescence. If you look at certain deer, it's the antlers. For other species, it might be, odor or even succulence, how tasty they look.
Succulents. I look delicious. Please date me.
In the animal kingdom, looking well-fed and healthy is incredibly attractive. But for humans, the source argues, the entire game changed. What got us mated wasn't our tail feathers or our musk, it was what we had to say.
That's a huge shift. We're moving from purely visual or olfactory signals to cognitive signals.
Correct. And it's because hominids needed cooperation for procreation. Raising a human baby is an incredibly resource-intensive, community-based task. It takes a village, as they say.
So our primary fitness indicator became how responsibly we behaved.
Exactly. Behaving responsibly was the new tail feather.
Now, this isn't just like speculation. The expert source points to actual physical evidence in the fossil record.
Yeah.
We can see this change happening in the bones.
We absolutely can.
Yeah.
And we can pinpoint the timeline, too. This transition really starts to become visible about 2 million years ago. This is the transition period from Homo habilis to Homo erectus.
2 million years ago.
Okay.
So what are we seeing in the skeletons? What's the proof?
2 major things. First, you have to look at the teeth, specifically the canine teeth in males. In our primate ancestors, and in many living primates like chimps or baboons, the males have these huge dagger-like canine teeth. They're weapons.
Right. You bare your fangs to show dominance to fight.
But starting around this time, those big male canine teeth start getting smaller. They just start shrinking generation after generation.
Okay, so that's the first thing. What's the second?
The second thing is the size ratio between males and females. We call this sexual dimorphism. In species where there's a lot of violent competition for mates, where the biggest male fights everyone else and takes the harem, the males are usually massive compared to the females. Think of a silverback gorilla. He's huge. The female is much smaller.
Okay, I'm with you.
But in the fossil record from 2 million years ago, that ratio starts to drop. The males are still bigger, sure, but the gap becomes much less pronounced. We start looking more like each other in terms of size.
So we have smaller teeth and more similar body sizes.
Mm-hmm.
What's the analysis here? What does that actually tell us about their social lives?
It tells us a massive story. The smaller teeth mean that males were toning down the physical fighting. You just don't lose your weapons unless you stop using them.
That makes sense.
And the change in the size ratio suggests that the mating system itself was changing.
Changing how?
It implies that females stopped, sleeping around indiscriminately with whichever alpha male forced his way in and started raising their standards. It implies choice, female choice.
This brings up the resource allocation argument from the source, which I found fascinating. It's all about the biological cost of body parts.
Evolution is an economist. It's a ruthless accountant. Everything costs energy. Growing massive fangs takes a ton of calcium, it takes calories, it takes metabolic effort just to maintain them.
So if you're walking around with these giant fangs, but those fangs aren't actually helping you get a mate anymore.
Then they're a liability. They're a waste of resources. As the source says, whatever body part shrinks fast in evolution shrinks because it stops getting you sex.
That's a direct quote.
Pretty much. If fangs stop getting you sex, they're just using up precious calcium for no reason.
I love the line in the text. Sure, you can bite your egghead rival, but if fangs don't get you chicks, what's their point?
It's funny, but it's scientifically profound. It suggests a tipping point where social skills started to outcompete pure aggression. If a female prefers a male who can communicate, who has friends, who is kind,
Then the male with the giant teeth who just bites people isn't going to pass on his genes.
he becomes an evolutionary dead end. Worse than that, he becomes socially ostracized. The source suggests that aggression started to be seen as primitive and crude.
So wit and charm became the new dominance.
Yes, the bully gets excluded from the stag-eating parties.
Stag eating parties. I like that image. The cool kids are over here sharing meat and telling stories, and the guy with the big teeth is just sitting alone in the corner, chewing on a root.
Precisely. And in that environment, that kind of isolation is fatal in an evolutionary sense.
So we've established that we moved away from physical dominance. But I want to dig deeper into why we chose kindness specifically. Why didn't we choose, I don't know, super speed or invisibility, some other cool trait?
And that leaves us to the mechanism of choice. And to understand that, the source gives us this wonderful, if slightly terrifying analogy. It involves the black widow spider.
Let's get into that, segment 2. Why we isn't spiders.
Why we isn't spiders. Grammatically questionable, but biologically very accurate.
So the Black Widow. We all know the reputation.
Oh, yes. The female black widow is famous for sexual cannibalism. She often eats the male after, or sometimes even during, mating.
That is some high-stakes dating.
Extremely high stakes. But from an evolutionary perspective, this sets up a very specific selection pressure. The female needs nourishment to produce her eggs, and, well, the male is a very convenient source of protein.
So what kind of male does she want? What's attractive to a female Black Widow?
She wants a male that is easy to catch and easy to eat.
She wants a moron.
Essentially, yes. A gene in the female for attraction to stupidity in males is actually advantageous for her. If she's attracted to a smart spider one who's evasive, suspicious, quick to run away, she might not get to eat him.
And if she doesn't eat him?
She might starve, and her babies might die. The whole genetic line ends.
So the stupid gene in her partner actually leads to better survival for her offspring.
Correct. The dopey dad getting eaten is the key to the replication of spider genes. It's the winning strategy for them.
The source has a great line here for the listeners. Ladies, don't beat yourself up for dating a moron. You're just channeling your inner spider.
It is a comforting thought, perhaps, and the source continues the joke. I'm sure the female black widow is kicking herself with all 8 legs for some of the smart spiders she's dated.
Because they got away.
Exactly. She wants to settle down with a sexy, stupid, savory spider.
But, and this is the huge but, humans are not spiders.
We are definitely not spiders, and this is where the comparison really illuminates the human condition. Why don't human females select for stupidity? Why don't they select for males who are just big, sacks of protein?
Because human dads need to do a little more than just provide a snack.
They need to provide care. They need to provide protection. They need to negotiate with the tribe. They need to stick around.
Then the source brings in another animal for comparison. The shark.
The shark. An apex predator. It's strong, it's fast, it's scary, a perfect killing machine.
So why not be like a shark? Why didn't human females say, you know what I want? A guy who is a killing machine.
Because shark survival does not depend on altruism. It doesn't depend on metaphors or storytelling. Sharks are generally solitary hunters. They don't need to organize a hunting party. They don't need to resolve a dispute over who gets the best sleeping spot in the cave.
So if a shark chose a mate based on their ability to write poetry,
their offspring would be at a massive disadvantage. They'd have genes for writing poetry in an environment where what you really need are genes for swimming fast and biting hard. As the source says, they need dorsal fins, not feelings.
But for hominids, for us, the environment was totally different.
Our environment was social. Hominid survival did depend on cooperation. It did depend on communication.
So in our specific context, Choosing a mate with altruism and a talent for metaphors wasn't just some quirky preference. It was a hardcore survival strategy.
It resulted in more surviving babies. A father who could talk his way out of a fight or who could talk the tribe into sharing food with his family was worth a lot more than a father who just had big muscles or a tasty brain.
Tasty brain. I'm never going to get that image out of my head now.
It's a vivid one.
So this establishes that we selected for these mental traits because they worked for us. But I want to play devil's advocate here. And this leads us right into segment 3, the truth about trickery.
Yes. The sincerity arms race.
If being nice gets you the girl or gets you the guy,
Yeah.
can't you just fake it? I mean, can't you just pretend to be altruistic until you seal the deal and then, drop the act?
This is a classic problem in evolutionary biology. It's called cheating. And in theory, if you can get the reward mating without paying the cost, actually sacrificing for others, that should be a winning strategy.
Right. The fake nice guy. We've all met them.
But here's the catch. Evolution is an arms race. As soon as males started faking it, females started getting better at detecting the fakes.
It's like a lie detector test that ran for 1,000,000 years straight.
That's a perfect analogy. The source explains that as hominids got better and better at detecting trickery, the genes for fake altruism just didn't survive. They were weeded out.
Because if you got caught faking it, you were done for.
You were ostracized, you were rejected, no one would share food with you, no one would mate with you. So the only genes that survived in the long run were the genes for sincere altruism.
This is fascinating. You had to actually be nice because just acting was way too risky.
This leads to a profound shift in particularly male psychology. Hominid males became unique in the animal kingdom for their real desire to care for youngsters and elders.
Not just their own kids.
The tribe's youngsters and elders. This generalized altruism became a massive fitness indicator. It showed you were a team player.
And the source makes a really interesting point here about our own motivations today. It says we're unconscious of our motives and we're sincerely nice because nature literally selected against the fakers.
Yes. When you do something nice, you don't usually think, I'm doing this to increase my reproductive fitness. You just feel, you feel nice. You feel a genuine desire to help.
That feeling is the mechanism.
Mm-hmm. That feeling is the mechanism. Evolution made the right thing feel good so that we would do it automatically without thinking. If we had to calculate it every time, we might mess it up. Or we'd look calculating. And looking calculating is a massive turnoff.
So true sincerity is the ultimate seduction.
In a species as smart and as suspicious as ours, yes.
But wait, you just said as smart as ours? This connects to the other huge factor here. Intelligence.
The cognitive feedback loop, or what the source calls the runaway process.
How does that work?
Well, think about it. If intelligence becomes the primary thing you're looking for in a mate, you yourself need to be smart enough to recognize it.
Right. It takes one to know one. You can't be an idiot and accurately judge who the genius is.
You cannot judge the wit of a poet if you don't understand poetry. You can't judge the strategic mind of a leader if you can't follow the strategy.
So as males got smarter to try and impress females,
females had to get smarter to distinguish the truly smart males from the ones who were just, loud or faking it.
And as females got smarter,
males had to get even smarter to keep up with their increasingly sophisticated standards.
It's a spiral. It just keeps going up and up.
It's a feedback loop. Intelligence surpasses physicality as the primary fitness indicator. Both males and females find empathy and intelligence attractive. So brains get bigger in both sexes to keep up.
And this explains why human men and women are so similar cognitively.
Yes. We'll get to that more in a bit, but it's a crucial point. In many species, the sexes are very different. Mentally, behaviorally, in humans, we're remarkably matched.
The source sums this all up beautifully.
Yeah.
We bullshitted our way into each other's beds.
Using charm, gossip, poetry, and smack talking.
Smack talking? Seriously?
Absolutely. Verbal sparring, wit, banter, that is all a display of cognitive fitness. If you can make someone laugh, if you can roast them cleverly without being cool, you're showing off your brain's processing speed and your social calibration.
So stand-up comedy is basically a mating dance.
Biologically speaking, 100%.
Okay, so we have this incredible theory. We evolved to be nice and smart because it got us dates. But is there any actual proof of this today? Or is this all just a just-so story about the distant past?
That is a fair and very important question. And that brings us to segment 4. Modern proof. Are we actually nice?
The source cites a massive study to back this up.
A very famous one. It involved 10,000 people. across 37 different cultures.
Wow, that is a huge sample size. And 37 cultures means we're not just looking at, say, American college students.
Right, this is looking for universals, human nature, not just, Western cultural conditioning.
So they asked these 10,000 people to rank 13 qualities in a potential mate. What did they find?
Well, first they found that many of the expected sex differences were consistent. Men tended to value physical attractiveness slightly more. Women tended to value resource acquisition or earning potential slightly more. That's standard evolutionary theory.
There was a but, right.
There was a huge but. There was one quality that was identical for both: kindness. It was rated in the top 3 out of 13 qualities by both genders in all 37 cultures.
Not 3. Everywhere. From the U.S. to Zambia to Iran.
Everywhere. And here's the real kicker. In 32 of the 37 cultures, men and women gave kindness the exact same ranking.
That's unheard of in these kinds of cross-cultural studies. Usually there's at least some variance.
It shows just how fundamental this is to our species. We might disagree on how tall a partner should be, or how rich, or how old, but we all agree they should be kind.
So kindness isn't just a nice to have, it's a must-have. It's a deal breaker.
It is a non-negotiable for the human species.
The source also brings in some evidence from our cousins, the baboons. This is the work of a researcher named Barbara Smuts from the University of Michigan.
Yes, and baboons are so interesting because they're often used as the classic examples of strict, violent dominance hierarchies. The biggest, meanest male rules the troop.
But Smuts found something else was going on.
She observed that the over-aggressive male baboons, the bullies, were actually shunned by the females.
Shunned. How?
Avoided. The females wouldn't groom them. They wouldn't present to them for mating if they could avoid it. Instead, females showed a clear preference for males who were socially graceful.
What does a socially graceful baboon look like? Is he, like, using the right fork for the salad?
Maybe not holding a door open, as the source jokes, but they are the males who form friendships, who will groom the females without demanding sex immediately, who play with the infants even if they aren't theirs.
The nice guy baboon.
The good citizen baboon. And the significance here is that even in our primate cousins, we see the roots of this exact same system. Social skills are starting to outweigh brute force in the mating game.
The source has this funny image of imagining a baboon holding a door open.
After 1,000,000 years of males competing for female choice, baboon males will be holding doors open for their beloved babettes.
Babettes. I love that.
It really highlights the trajectory. We're just much further along that evolutionary path than the baboons are.
This brings us to the final segment, and honestly the most mind-bending part of the source material. Segment 5, the philosophical implications.
This is where we step back and look at what this all means for who we are right now.
The core idea here is that we, men and women, we literally created each other.
It's a beautiful and, I think, a profound thought.
Let's break it down. We have very different bodies physically.
Yes, men and women have radically different breasts, butts, hair tufts, shoulders, waists, all of it. Why? Because hominid men and women were attracted to different physical qualities in each other over millions and millions of years.
So sexual selection literally sculpted our bodies.
We sculpted each other piece by piece.
But we have similar minds.
And that is the absolute key. The similarity in men and women's cognitive abilities, our capacity for empathy, for language, for reasoning, that similarity exists because we found those traits equally attractive in each other.
So my intelligence, the fact that I can sit here and understand this deep dive, exists in part because my female ancestors like smart men.
And because your male ancestors liked smart women, it was a mutual selection process. It had to be.
You can't judge intelligence unless you yourself are intelligent. It comes back to that.
Exactly. So anything you like about your own gender, your own intelligence, your own kindness, your sense of humor is there because the opposite sex selected for it over and over again for 1,000,000 years.
The source puts it so directly. Look at the nearest members of the opposite sex. Your sex created them, body and soul.
For your talents, you have to thank them and all the sex they gave you.
It's basically a thank you note to history.
It really is. And it frames the relationship between the sexes not as a war, not as a competition, but as a co-creation. We are the artwork of each other's desires.
Wow. The expert in the source then quotes Shakespeare, Hamlet.
Yes. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, in action, how like an angel.
And Hamlet is looking at humanity and seeing something divine, something God-given.
He sees us as godlike.
Mhm.
But the source argues that this nobility, this reason, this angelic action, wasn't handed to us by a god from on high. It was created by 4-foot-high apes,
Just making practical choices on the ground.
making very practical choices about who was a good parent, who would share the meat, who wouldn't hit them, who could make them laugh.
We are noble in reason because our ancestors refused to mate with the ones who weren't.
That's the takeaway. We filtered out the cruelty. We filtered out the stupidity. Slowly, generation by generation, we distilled the human spirit.
That is incredibly powerful. It makes you look at dating in a completely new way. It's not just finding a +1 for a wedding.
Yeah.
It's genetic engineering.
It is the driving force of our species' future. Every choice matters.
Which brings us to our outro. Let's try and summarize what we've learned today.
The big takeaways. First, kindness is not just a virtue. It is a hardcore survival strategy. It is the killer app of the human species.
Second, we traded fangs for feelings. We gave up physical dominance for social cooperation because simply it raised more babies.
And third, sexual selection is the reason we're smart, creative, and empathetic. We are the products of a million-year-long beauty pageant where the talent portion was being a decent person.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? What's this so what?
I think it validates our best instincts. When you feel that urge to be kind or to share or to help someone, that isn't weakness. That is your ancient ancestors whispering to you. That is the trait that kept your entire line alive.
Kindness is biologically sexy.
It's the ultimate flex. It really is.
And the source ends with a call to duty, a very specific kind of duty.
Yes. Make sure you keep having sex with smart, compassionate Homo sapiens. It's your duty to the species.
It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it.
Indeed.
But seriously, it leaves us with a final, really provocative thought. If we bred ourselves to be this kind over the last 2 million years, what are we doing now?
That is the question, isn't it? Evolution hasn't stopped. Every time we swipe right or swipe left on a dating app, we're making a microevolutionary decision.
Are we continuing that trajectory of kindness? Or are we now selecting for something else? Fame, narcissism, social media clout?
If we choose kindness, we continue the project that those 4-foot-high apes started. If we don't, well, we might be heading back toward the sharks.
Let's try and stay on the side of the apes.
Agreed.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Go out there, be kind, and remember, it's what makes you human.